Well, hello there, terrible warriors. Welcome back to another Session Zero, the time where we all get together and we get everything needed to start playing the game, and then we stop right at the end and we don't actually play the game. We don't go that far. We're not that committed yet. One day we might actually come back and actually play a full game, but we decided to start this Session Zero out of the fact that we miss all of these games, and there's also a bunch of games that we might not play on the podcast, or we already played on the podcast and we skipped this whole phase, but we wanted to spend an hour or abouts to examine the character creation phase of these games and what it's like to actually make characters. Even when we played Pugmire, which we're doing today, years ago with the Edmonton crew, we didn't go over the character creation bit. We just showed up and went, hey, here's our characters, and started rolling dice and played the game because we've only got 4 hours and we want to get to the good stuff. So we wanted to return to this because it's funny, with so many years between Pugmire, I still bring it up and people go, what? This is a game that I can play? This is real? And so maybe you don't know what I'm talking about when I mention Pugmire. Maybe you haven't gone that far back into the archives of our old days on the podcast and know what this game is. And so I will reintroduce you to Pugmire, but first I need to introduce you to the people who went, what? This is a game? I can play this? And insisted that they join me for a Session Zero the minute I decided to schedule it. So first we have returning to us from our Underhill Bywater campaign, which I'm hoping we're going to get into our next stage because we left on a bit of a cliffhanger. It's Jo Drummond.
Hey, it's great to be back again.
Hey there, Jo. And you're keeping warm here in the hot days of summer as we are slowly being allowed to go back outside again.
Not quite the dog days of summer yet, but yeah, keeping warm, keeping busy.
Excellent. And you actually, it's not your first time here because we talked about For Crits and Giggles in one of our Spotlight episodes, but it was the same deal on Discord, talked to you about Pugmire, and you were just like, what? I can play this? I have to be in on this. And from the other side of the world, it's Kieran Bennet from Crits and Giggles.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about this good boy game.
I gave you a list of, here's all the Session Zero games we're getting ready to do. Let me know if any of these are interesting because I'd love to collaborate more and bring you onto the show because, we chat a lot on Discord and we hang out, and I added a couple shows that you are a part of. So we have a lot of regular interaction off air.
We talk a lot of shit.
And you went through that list and you were just like, these all sound great, but if I could only commit to one, this is the only game that's ride or die on that list. And you circled Pugmire several times with hearts and all arrows pointing at it. And yeah,
100%. That's exactly how it happened.
So let me ask you then, what is Pugmire to you, to the two of you, Jo? So I've given him this elevator pitch a couple of times, and I'll give it the TLDR, but I also am quite cognizant that I do all the talking on this show because I'm not used to virtual recordings. So I'd like to share the stage, and I'd like to commit to that and welcome you into my room onto this show. Jo, what is Pugmire that you know of? And it's okay if you're wrong. This isn't a test. It's more of a, what are your impressions of Pugmire? What are you hoping this is going to be?
I was like, oh no, I'm already not the good girl. So I think, it was sold to me as dogs go on an adventure, more or less.
Yeah.
But also with a bunch of lore and kind of a very fantastical take on that.
And not like dogs like that Disney one where the dogs all get lost and they go riding on a raft.
Oh, no,
They're not like
no.
dogs.
Is that Homeward Bound?
Homeward Bound, that's the one I was thinking
there we
of.
go.
but like they're upright, they're wearing clothes, they have tools, they live in cities. They
have thumbs.
It's like the Robin Hood Disney movie where it's all of these anthropomorphic animals just going about their time as people. And as much as they're dogs, they're people. That's the other.
But they're dogs.
But they're dogs. But they're very much people. Also people. And in fact, they even mentioned in the first page of the book, the fact that they're dogs is only there to highlight the fact that they're people. And that's the other key part. What about you, Kieran? What do you think Pugmire is?
So when I wish I'd actually brought up what your exact Discord message, but it's so long ago that it's totally
buried.
lost
It's buried
now.
under so much garbage.
Lost to the annals of time.
Yeah, basically.
Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts, Pugmire. There we are.
You're not wrong. Yeah. I think I had the same kind of thing as Joe, where it's like dogs go on an adventure, but I think the bit that kind of stood out for me was that for all the fantasy dressing, it is set in the future, and man
That's the
is
twist.
gone, and this is like a far, it's so far in the future, it's now circled back around, and that was the bit that made me go, okay, interesting. All right.
Eddy Webb, the creator of this game, has a twisted imagination, and this is not like the elevator pitch is Dungeons and Dragons, but with dogs. And that's a really easy sell. But then you actually start flipping through the pages, and Eddy Webb takes the implication of a dog society and tries to find out, how is this real? Mm-hmm. And where in the world and how does this actually come to be? This is not an abstract fantasy world. This is Earth. Our Earth, the Earth that we are living in today, but thousands of years later, long after humans are no longer around. And what happened to them is not answered and is not going to be answered and is left up to religion to decide where humans are or what happened. Did they die? Did they ascend into energy beings? Did they get into spaceships and rocket to another planet? We don't know, and we're never going to know. And they're an ancient precursor society in the world of Pugmire. And the denizens of this world know that there used to be another civilization here, and they all debate what they were like and what they were. And the dogs have all banded, at least the dogs of the Pugmire kingdom, have all banded under a common ideology or theology, really, of what humans were. And they see that lifted by the paws of man, they have been gifted this world to be their stewards until the day man returns. And so it's the image of the dog waiting at the door for you to come home from work, but an entire society. And in the walls of Pugmire, it feels very much like Dungeons and Dragons. But the minute you adventure out into the wilderness, it is a post-apocalyptic wasteland with ancient ruins and nightmare fuel monsters. And this is not a place that civilization can survive. And hidden in that are all of these secrets of mankind. And it's wrapped as magic, taken from the idea that any sufficiently powerful civilization would appear like magic to a less advanced civilization. So it looks like magic. I have a silver ball and I can use it to levitate objects. And that's magic in this world. But is it also science? It's left up. Is it
really magnets?
Or is it, are you really reading minds because you have magic? Or are you reading minds because you drank a potion that now lets you and is that just genetic resequencing, unlocking the true potential of the brain? I don't know. Did humans, are they responsible for the reason that dogs and cats are upright, walking, talking civilizations now that uplifted them? I don't know. We don't know. Part of the game is that driven sense of curiosity. You don't play as adventurers. You play as, I think they called them pioneers. They're basically explorers heading out into the world to make sure the monsters don't destroy anyone in Pugmire. And also finding relics and answers of the world that was and understanding a little bit more about the humans that used to be on this planet. And were they really gods? Or were they just stupid, weird-looking dogs?
You know, I don't know the answer to that one, let's be honest.
So it's got a really fun meta to it. And yet, with all of that, the true reason why Pugmire was created was so that Eddy Webb could turn his dog into a D&D character. That That was it. That was the only reason. Like the monarchs of Pugmire, I believe, are just Eddy Webb's real life dogs. And he owns pugs. And so they become the ruling noble class. Because of course they do. And this is really a game that's also pitched like you can make a character, but you can also make your dog. And if you're the kind of person who has a dog, you want to play this game and turn your dog into a Dungeons and Dragons character.
So funny enough, I tried to do that,
unsurprisingly.
And it was harder than I thought it was going to be. I think in large part because my dog is very much she likes the finer things in life.
So would Juniper make a better non-player character in a campaign of Pugmire? Like a merchant that hands out like soft cloths and fine perfumes and
beautiful pillows. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful pillows.
They're the shopkeeper you're bartering with.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Or I think she would make a really good player character in Under Hill by Water.
Oh, yes. Yeah, just someone who wants to have no adventure. Thank you very much.
Yes. So instead, I kind of tried to make the player character that I think my dog would want to play.
Oh, interesting. So this character is your dog's power fantasy.
Yeah, basically. That's what I tried to go for.
What's really funny is I'm not a dog person. I'm a cat person. And so, of course, we're doing Pugmire, and we're not doing the sequel Monarchies of Mao, where you get to make the cat people in that world. One last thing I'll say. So the dogs have their thing on the Code of Man, and we'll talk a bit about that after we talk about our characters. The Monarchies of Mao also have an opinion of mankind, but they see them more as they were cats' servants, and it's not that the world is a gift to them. The world is just theirs. Of course it is. And
obviously.
And so it's a very, and they certainly wouldn't start a religion about it. Like nonsense. So it's taking the idea of the pharaoh cat, and just be like, well, of course. I mean, man worship cats, not the other way around. Let's not get, dogs are weird.
Let's not get this backwards or anything like that. Let's not put the cart before the horse.
What about you, Kieran? What was your entry point? What were you trying to accomplish when you made your character? Because Jo was focusing on Juniper, Jo's dog. What were you or were you just rolling the dice and just see what happened?
So I always approach whenever I'm making a character for any game, which isn't very often because I'm normally the one running it. I usually come up with like the voice first and like the way of speaking. And so I was kind of angling for, and I do play this character very often, like basically a big himbo dog with a large sword was kind of where I was going.
Yes.
Very noble, very strong, not very smart, but like very... have either of you ever read The Belgariad by David Eddings?
I have not.
I haven't.
Okay, so it's fantasy series from like, I think it's like the 1980s. It's good. It I wouldn't say it's like essential reading or anything, but it's good. And I've read it a lot. And one of the characters in that is called Mandarellin, and he's a knight, and he is large, has a sword, and he's not very smart. And he speaks with lots and lots of these and thous and for so muches and
like the pirates from Pirates of the Caribbean, where they're all using very big words just to make them sound more eloquent. Yeah. Absolutely. Very, very much like,
here thou must forgive me for my intrusion upon thine conversation, but I must beseech thee at this point.
While he's talking about being caught, with his pants down at his ankles.
Yeah.
Tongue in the peanut butter jar.
Basically, yeah.
My dear lady, I had only just absconded with your treasured accoutrements.
Yeah, and very as well. But now that thou hast caught me with mine tongue in the butter of peanut, I shall throw myself upon the sword. And surely that is all I deserve.
My character is going to love you. I realized far too late into character creation, I was like, well, I can't go back now, that I basically created the protagonist of the latest Yakuza series Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon, and the main character's name is Ichiban. And I was just like, oh no, I just made the dog Ichiban. So whatever, that's what I'm doing. I've noticed this going through the archives on Terrible Warriors. A lot of, you can tell what I was watching or playing when you listen to these games at the time. Like, oh, that was the time he was going through a Stargate bend, or that's when he got back into Star Trek, and this is when the Mandalorian was running, and you can see the timeline, and it's apparent to me that I have never had an original thought in my life. So. Who wants to go first? Who would like to introduce their very good dog to the table? Because these dogs are going to get to know each other, and they're going to be assigned as part of the same royal pioneering group of Pugmire together to go out on missions. Maybe Juniper would be our patron who would offer us our missions. They'd be our contact from the royal court who would give us jobs to go out and about.
I like that. She would be good at that.
Yeah.
She can be very demanding and very specific.
Yes. Who would like to go first? I will flip a D2.
All right.
I've got it right here. I have a two-sided dice. You can see
it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful two-sided dice.
That's enormous. That's
it's a beefy one. I have to flip it because it's basically a coin, even though it calls itself a D2.
Sure, let's do it then.
From the Stormcrow Manor, and they just reopened today. We're gonna celebrate because the Stormcrow Manor has finally opened up their patio for the first time in like a year. So, it's a 1.
All right. Sister Salsa Brittany will be introducing herself first. I was trying to think of a good dog name, and it said in the book to go with a name that's not too dissimilar to kind of a human name. But I also really love it when dogs have either plant names or food names. So my dog's named Juniper. There's the whole plant thing there.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's also a Pokemon scientist name. So, like, it's a people name. Mm-hmm. All the Pokemon scientists are named after trees and plants.
Right, exactly.
And Pokemon's real, so.
Yeah, exactly. They're all real.
So I initially had her name as Sasha, but decided that wasn't dog enough for me. So I changed it to Salsa. Excellent.
Nice.
So Sister Salsa is a pointer breed, just like my dog. So my dog's actually a pointer. That's just her breed. That is what it is.
And Sister Salsa Genuflex, is that a new dance move that's going to take over?
Yes.
The whole kingdom. They'll start doing the salsa, but in the world of Pugmire, it's just praying.
So my dog must have heard me say her name because she's now right here.
Good dog.
And so now she ran away. So I'm playing a pointer because my dog's a pointer. And unlike Pointer as the breed, which is my dog, I'm playing a Brittany, which is a slightly smaller pointer.
Yeah, because this is the thing with the Pugmires. We're not glossing over it. When you name your dog, you're also choosing their calling, which is the closest thing this game's got to like a class, like a D&D class system.
Like class.
But then you also pick their breed and their family name, and the breed would be something like Pointer and Shepherd, and then in that breed, they then have a list of here's a bunch of family names that fit that breed name, and they're all, of course, names like Corgi and things like that you can pick. So you could be from the Corgi family, or you could be from the Pug family, and those are all noble families in the world of Pugmire. And right now, a pug sits on the throne, and a founder of Pugmire was a pug, but there have been different noble families who have sat on the throne through history. And so you could be, so that's where the naming conventions come from. Your surname identifies the dog breed that you are, but then the breed identifies sort of the category of dog type that you are. And then if you don't fit into any of those, there's always the mutts.
The mutts.
So you went with the pointer breed, but a different family name. You're not from the Pointer family.
No. Brittany family.
So Salsa Brittany.
Yeah. Brittany's are like slightly smaller, kind of maybe 20 to 40 pounds. Really cute little floppy ears.
So really she's got cute floppy ears and she's short compared to the other dogs.
Yeah. And not in her family, but short compared to kind of pointers overall.
Yeah. In the adventuring group, you might be the shortest member in our group.
Not if there's a corgi or if there's a pug.
No, I see.
But if everybody else, or oh my goodness, no. She's much bigger than a chihuahua. but as far as her pointer family, she's on the smaller end. Her calling is a shepherd. Justin will know from my previous time, and I guess you all will know as well from hearing me play on Terrible Warriors before. I'm always super interested in the lore of different games.
Yeah.
And so if I get a chance to play a character that can explore a little bit more of that lore, I usually gravitate towards that.
Yeah, I thought for sure you were either going to go shepherd or artisan was the other one, like the magic
100%.
one, because the artisans are all about trying to find the hidden mysteries of the world, and the shepherds are they're like the clerics of Pugmire, and so they're where artisans would be closer to sorcerers or magicians, but in this world also scientists. Shepherds aren't looking into the lore to uncover the scientific nature, but to uncover the spiritual nature of the Pugmire universe.
Yeah, and of the two, I thought my own dog would be a bit closer to being interested in being a shepherd, in part because she just loves people so much and wants to really, really like get in there and make you feel better. So I thought she would want to play a shepherd. So that's where we're at with that. And similarly, her background is sage. So we can also pick backgrounds. And unfortunately, I don't have the rule book in front of me, so I can't read what a sage is.
I don't remember. I've got the rule book open as well. I got Good Dog.
I would like to say just very briefly as like a sidebar, I haven't read like a ton of RPG rulebooks, but I have read a few, some very recent, some very, very old. I like this rulebook. It's very easy to read. It's really well laid out.
The last one we did, Dune, we criticized it because there was a lot of page flipping. As you're going through character creation, you're constantly having to go back to previous pages to find information.
Yeah.
The way Pugmire is written is it gives you information on the first couple pages, and then as you go deeper, it repeats that information. So you do not have to keep going back to the previous pages because you're like, oh, frig, I don't remember what these ability scores do. Well, that's okay because it does it again on page 65.
Right.
And so you don't have to keep going back. We're like, oh, I don't remember what like, because on the breed section comes before the ability score section. In the breed section, it tells you that you get a +2 to specific ability scores depending on the breed that you choose to be. Then you get to the ability score part, and like, well, I don't remember this. You don't have to. It's written again.
It's there
a second time to recall, and it's not redundant because it is redundant, but it's not unnecessary because it does remove you constantly flipping through pages. And also Joe knows this. This is one of the few games out there, I think, that really started the phone version of the rule book. It's a free download PDF of the entire core rule book formatted for a tiny phone screen. So big
nice
fonts.
Oh, really?
It's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, but it's designed to be an easy, quick reference that you could just have on your phone or your iPad, rather than because PDFs tend to just be the book in a PDF, which make it really hard to read on a lot of screens. So they made a specific phone format of that rule book.
Wow. Okay.
And then they put it on DriveThruRPG for $0. So like, again, Eddy Webb really, like, as a game designer, there's some really interesting thoughts that have gone into this. So
and along with the not having to fill pages around, I also noticed almost all of the pages, or almost all of the descriptions, have links and page numbers for the specific information you want, and it's a hyperlink as well. So you can
it's all very smart. It's all very accessible. So the sage is someone who has spent years learning the lost lore of their history. You have scoured manuscripts, studied scrolls, and listened to experts on subjects that fascinated you. Your quest for knowledge is never ending, and you get the skills Know Arcana and Know History, and you start with a magnifying glass, a set of common clothes, a belt pouch containing a few plastic coins, and the trick nearby expert. And yeah, all the coins in this world are plastic. Plastic is a thing that we have, and it's a quite a valuable commodity. And it's not until the ocean cannot be crossed in this world because it's an acidic ocean. And so anything that goes into it, wood, metal, ships, they just disintegrate or dissolve. And so in the Pirates of Pugmire, it only is possible because of the invention of a plastic hull. And now for the first time, you can sail the acid sea, and you can go and visit the nations of the lizards and the bird people to the south. And it's really interesting. So again, like, it's fantasy, but it's also future post-apocalyptic, which is, I dig it.
So I just tried to Google Pugmire because I was thinking to myself, I'd like to, grab like my own copy of this, see if it's available anywhere in New Zealand. Google was trying to be really helpful and instead decided to give me Pugmire Ford, which is a delership in Georgia. We'll just
want to drop RPG, follow it. Yeah.
Let's just try that again. There we go.
So it's funny. One of the pre-made characters, Sister Picasa Kali, and there's a great picture of her in the book. A kind of picture, but we're just changing the head of the dog to fit the right breed. That's our Sister Salsa.
100%. Yeah, the book has a bunch of really, really great illustrations in it. I really enjoyed looking at it.
Okay, so Kieran, it's your turn. Who's your good dog?
My good dog is a guardian by the name of Sir Maxwell Kibbleton.
Yes!
Of course.
Because I think that Maxwell is a very, like, for me, Maxwell is in the same realm as like Sparky. It's like it's such a dog
Max
name.
Yeah.
Like, and then Kibbleton, obviously.
Battle cry to the max as they come down two-handed.
Of course.
Maximum effort. Yeah.
Maximum effort. Amazing. So he is a fettle from the Dalmatian family.
Whoa, a bear hunter.
Yeah. So I thought like because again I was kind of going for like a big boy. And so, obviously, I went for the fettles because they're kind of.
I'm sorry, it was the poodles who were bear hunters, not the Dalmatians.
Well,
the original poodle was bred in France to hunt bears. They're big dogs. Anyways.
Yeah, so the fettles are like the warrior types in Pugmire. So I went for the Dalmatian because they're big dogs.
Big beautiful dogs.
Big beautiful dogs. But yeah, and then most of the other stuff I kind of pinched from the other examples that they had provided, which personally I thought the example characters were fabulous.
They're very good. If you just want to pick up the pre-made characters and play them, you cannot go wrong.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy when a game is like, hey, like, you can read through all of this if you want and create like a custom masterpiece, or you can just have this and you can just start playing the game right away.
You can just play Spike Mutt,
yeah,
and just get out there.
Oh my god!
Who doesn't want to play Spike Mutt?
I was actually very tempted by Spike Mutt just because the artwork for him is so good.
It's like Conan the Barbarian, but
yeah.
Conan the Barbarian.
Conan the Barbarian, but I'm forgetting now what Spike Mutt's because Spike Mutt is a noble dog, but has chosen the name of Mutt.
He is
and has
formerly
forsaken
of the Staffordshire.
Yeah, the Staffordshires. Yeah.
So good. But yeah, I mean, I picked up most of the stuff from the example characters, but I enjoyed the ideals, the bonds, and the flaws as well. So ideal, standing by my friends even when it's hard. Bond. I think no, actually I never wrote anything. I didn't actually write anything for Bond, but I think it was just like
you were gonna wait till you met the other characters to see.
Yeah, I was gonna write in like I'm loyal to blah blah blah. And then my flaw, I can never turn a blind eye to any injustice, which is very much the character that I enjoy.
Which is every injustice. You just start barking. So you really take the bark at the darkness code very seriously. Yeah. So there is the code of man in the world of Pugmire that is a kind of like their commandments. The first one is be a good dog. That's the one that everyone agrees on is very important. And so everyone has a different idea of what that means, but we're all striving to be a good dog. And we certainly never want to be labeled a bad dog. Then there's obey the master, bite those who endanger you, defend your home, stay loyal to those that are true, protect all from the unseen, which is the bark at the darkness, and fetch what has been left behind. And some of those are, defending your home, be a good dog, stay loyal to those that are true. Those are the easy ones. And then there's those like obey the master. Those get debated a lot of are you your own master? Is mankind that we worship the master? Is the king of Pugmire your master? And it gets a little more debatable as you start getting into the nuances.
One might say that these are the rough questions.
Yeah. And fetch which is left behind, which is really what a lot of the shepherds and artisans, especially the free dogs who head out into the wilderness, find the hidden mysteries of the world. We skipped over, Jo, your ideals.
We did. I did write them down. I had a little bit more trouble with the ideal and the bond on this one, but and I took the flaw much more literally than Kieran did. But I'm pretty happy with how the flaw turned out. So what's most important to me is finding a way to usher in the return of man. I think Salsa is very
Christ will return.
Yeah, that's very much where I was going with this.
Yeah. Mankind is coming back. We are all waiting at the door of our heart for them to come home, and we need to make sure that the place is ready for them.
Yeah. And how do we truly be the goodest girl?
They are out doing very important work, and one day they're going to come home from work, and we need to be waiting at the door for them.
We need to be ready.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by my bond to my chosen family within the church. So my backstory for Salsa is that she was from a merchant class. Again, as we talked about with Juniper earlier, probably being one of the merchants. But she's really kind of found her place within the church and is very, very bonded to them. However, no matter what, I just can't stop barking when startled. And I'm startled very easily.
Oh, okay. So when things start getting a little tense, you start taking a lot of fear checks.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and the personality traits mechanically, I believe, are used to generate fortune in the center of the table. So as you use those, or if the GM offers up opportunities to make your life difficult by using those, and your ideals, your bonds, and your flaws can all be used to create difficulty in your world. And if you agree to that, then fortune gets added into the center of the group, or experience can be handed out, or things like that. So my character, I think, is going to get along interestingly with a little bit of both of you, especially with your mercantile background. There's a place in the capital city of Pugmire, also called Pugmire, that is the back alley slum where the poor, the mutts, some cats go. It's rock bottom for the city, and it's derisively called by the noble families as the backyard, because if you pay attention to church, the backyard is where dogs would be sent by mankind to do their business. And so you don't want to live in the backyard. That's not a good place to live.
It's the toilet.
And so we're in the dumps, and
literally
this character doesn't know who their birth parents are. They were born in the red light district of the backyard, and they were raised as an orphan, but not through any system, by a little bit of everybody at a time. Whoever would take in this pup as they were growing up, and then would be pushed out. So there was a bit of time at a store, or a bit of time at a brothel, or at a tavern, or helping with performers on a street, and just be odd job after odd job after odd job, until finally Ishmo found their calling of. And Ishmo, I just looked up. I like taking Irish names and translating them from English words, and this is like me mashing up a bunch of words. That's basically the Irish word for the greatest. And so Ishmo becomes a ratter. That's their calling. It's the rogue thief class of this world. But not like, he's not wearing dark clothes and hiding around stealing from people. He's the hero of the people in his mind. He's here to defend the people of the backyard, and to take back that name, by the way, and to show that a good dog is a happy dog, and an unhappy dog doesn't have the opportunity to be a good dog yet. And so his calling as a ratter is to make all of the dogs of Pugmire, especially the dogs in the backyard, happy dogs. And if that means redistributing some of that happiness from those who have too much happiness, and bringing some of that happiness and showering that happiness over the crowds of the backyard, well, then that's just the job he's going to do.
That's just gonna have to be.
So his bond is very much just to the people of the backyard. He has a connection to the common folk of this poorer part of town, and he would do anything for them. And there's a good chance that almost all of them have raised him at some point in their lives, so he could call on them for help, being like, I'm in a bit of trouble, and then they're gonna come in. Ishmael's gotten kidnapped again, and
third time this week.
Right. And Ishmael's flaw is absolutely spending faster than they earn money. And they never hold on to anything. They're always in a little bit of debt with everyone, because they just see, like, what do you mean? I was talking last night with Joe. It's like, what do you mean? This can't be bad. It can't be criminal as I take your purse and huck it into the crowd. Look at all these people I've just made happy. Those are all now good dogs because of what we've done. And so there's this debate between the shepherd and the ratter of what it means to be a good dog. Because I'm sure the shepherd has some calling that maybe being a complete hedonist is not actually the path to being a good dog. just seeking pleasure at literally the expense of all else.
But on the other hand, alleviating suffering.
Now
that's
Ishmael's already winning you over. And if I can get you on my side, that's only going to help everyone in the backyard, because then I'm I have like legitimate standing with the church, right? And I can get, I'm going to be a saint one day. I'm going to be canonized for the miracles I've performed. And as a mutt, you get to pick your trick from any of the breeds that you want. And I picked mine off of, I believe it was just the first one on the list, because it was puppy dog eyes off of the artisan, the companions. That's why I picked off of the companion group. And so puppy dog eyes, I can use that trick to basically win over anyone, so they just stop being mad at me. Can't get mad at Ishmael because they go, and their eyes get real big and they get a little glossy and very Disney moment. And like, you can't raise a hand to Ishmael. Ishmael's just a dumb Robin Hood wannabe, right? And Friends in Low Places is the other trick, and Second Wind, because I have a strength of 8. So I have I am running but I've got a dexterity of 15. So as long as I'm using weapons that have the finesse quality, I can roll with my dexterity stat instead of my strength stat. But it also means if I'm actually in I'm a weird looking dog. I'm a dog that looks like he's got the hair or fur of like an Irish setter, of like a big bulky dog, but I'm real skinny and lanky. My arms and legs are a little too long for the body I've got. It's a mishmash of things, right? You know, when you see like that dog that you got from a shelter and you take them for a walk and everyone's like, wow, what dog is that? It's like, no one knows. It's got like 5 bits of everything. So all the proportions are a little wrong, but it just means that when Ishmael is in like the big getup of his hero gear, like big flowery, flowing cloaks and long, thin rapier blades. This is all very posable. And it's all about having the grand entrance, forming that silhouette so you stay in the people's minds, because it's as much about propaganda as it is about actually defeating the evil. If you defeat the evil and I have it written that there's a very good chance he's saving up right now to hire a bard simply to follow around to write down his exploits. He's just going to commission. It's like the complete opposite of what it's not like Geralt and Jaskier, but as if Jaskier has hired another bard to write Jaskier's stories, right? And I won my tools in a game of dice, even though everyone else was cheating. And so I have this unnaturally good sense of luck. But like all my skills are like bluff, sneak, perform, and persuade. So that gives you like a nice idea of like, these are my priorities here. And
mine are no arcana, no history, no religion.
Mm-hmm.
Sensing a theme here, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
and heal.
I have I wrote down my background, a swindler, charismatic cad with a trail of broken hearts, always yapping their mind. The revolution meets the performer with a colorful flair and dramatic entrances. So that's
amazing.
It. I there's a good part that Ishmo is probably also just graffitiing their own face onto the walls of places they've gone, leaving calling cards. They want to be a Zorro.
They want to be the kind to paint his own face on the side of a building, but then like a couple days later go,
is that me? Look
crazy.
Look at that uncanny resemblance. Wow. They really captured my revolutionary fire.
Who would have done that?
So I have a good idea that between, what were your names now? Ishmo's already forgotten. We've got Sister Salsa and Maxwell. So Salsa and Max at some point would have business that would take them into the backyard, and you would each have an interaction with the local hero Ishmo that no one's heard of. Like it's also a little bit like Star-Lord, and you go, who? No one's actually heard of Ishmo, because Ishmo is probably like 16 years old at the time that this is all beginning. Like it's all very like, my time is now. Here I am coming in like Alexander Hamilton, right? And so I feel like between Salsa and Max, Ishmo might be the mortar that brought everything together through shenanigans that no one wanted to be involved in. And now we're all, we end up at a bar somewhere and being like, we should team up. And both of you going, no, that's no, we should team up. And I just spend the first like 4 sessions of our game just convincing the two of you to team up with Ishmo. Because no, we could do something. We could make, you're all about being a good dog, and I'm all about being a happy dog. That's like the same thing.
I was just in here ministering. I didn't expect it. Wait, what's going on?
You've got connections. You could make us a part of that group of adventurers that go out and find relics, and we could bring that back, because in order to become a noble family in Pugmire, you need to have an ancient relic, and every noble family has a relic. And if they lose that relic, they're no longer a noble family. Maybe Ishmo's ultimate goal is to bring a relic for the backyard, and and so the backyard, the people of the backyard would be able to have a relic and rally and create a family of mutts that would be a noble family on their own right, and like upend the system. Because what would they do? Because that's the whole rule. You have a relic, you become a noble family. But what if like the red light district got a relic and wanted to become a noble family? What would the noble families do to stop that from happening? It would be a civil war could break out. That's what Ishmo wants. That's how you have change. So we got to go out into the world now. I can't do it. I'm scrawny. I need Max and I need Salsa.
And 16.
Max is going to be my shield and Salsa is going to be my brain. And we're going to head out there and we're going to find us a relic to save the people of the backyard.
Holy tennis ball.
It's going to be a holy tennis ball. When we played on Terrible Warriors years ago, their relic was a recipe for sausages that they ended up finding.
I love it.
And then it was brought back to, I believe it was brought back to Pugmire, and now it's like served as the sacrament at their churches. So there's our 3 good dogs, and I think we got a good origin story here. I like where they all come from. I like that it's all about fighting for the underdog. Boy, and this is a game chock full of puns. But going through the process, we talked a little bit. We glanced a little bit over with the page flipping bit, but actually making your characters. How did you enjoy it? Is this something where a session 0 should be done as a group, or did you feel you felt pretty confident independently and then bringing it together? Like, we've all got different experiences. I know, Kieran, it's mostly a D&D background, but like, what was this like diving into a different game and making these characters? Because I was very hands off with both of you and was like, bring it to the recording session. How did that go for you,
Just
Kieran?
like my father.
What can I say? Ishmo doesn't really know what it's like to be a father figure. It's all like, go get him, Tiger, and then he just leaves.
No, it was really easy. Like as I mentioned before, the book is really well laid out, and so there's been some other games where I've played where basically you have to like read the rules, understand them, and then make your character. Whereas I feel like this is very much presented in a way where it's like, hey, just start reading from here, and as you go, by the time you get to the end, you'll have a character and you'll know how to play the game. And then, as I said before as well, the example characters are very excellent, and I think like give like a good taste of the game as well if you're not really interested in.
They really helped me with the ideals, bonds, and flaw bit, because you could just look at, this is what we're going for. This is the intention that the game creator has.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also really enjoyed as well that at the very beginning of the book, I think on like page 10 or something, no, page 11, there's a thing where it's like, what is Pugmire about? And it kind of establishes early on, like, this is the like theme and mood of like the world and the game. And so I think I was perfectly happy creating my character just like by myself, and I think you could totally do that. But I think for like the bonds and the flaws and the ideals and stuff, like maybe having your group together to kind of like discuss those so that you can have sort of like a cohesive, like,
I would hold off on the
feel.
personality traits until after you present, like do the nitty bitties with your character. And then when you get together and you're writing your background and your traits, wait to meet the other dogs that are going to be in your party, because maybe I want the people of the backyard to be my bond, but maybe it's actually going to be Max. Maybe you're the one who keeps saving me whenever I get into trouble, and so my bond is to Max, who's always my savior. All right, and that might be my bond.
Yeah, because I feel like I feel like this game really makes like an effort from it makes an effort from like the get-go to be like, you guys are all on the same team, you are all good boys, and you are working together. And so I feel like that kind of that normal D&D approach of like, you know, you're all just like a band of disparate mercenaries together. It doesn't really work for this.
That's the buy-in, is we are part of an adventuring team. And if you want to leave the adventuring team, you're going to make a new character because you're going to leave the game. And the code of man is both cute, but also important. These are the tenets that every dog that lives in Pugmire has agreed to follow. And if you don't want to follow that anymore, you might become a bad dog. And when you become a bad dog, you might become a non-player character. And so the point here is these are important to your character. And if they're not important to you, make a different character and make it work. The monarchies of Mao twisted around a bit. They're a little bit more like, the monarchies of Mao don't have a single kingdom. They're more like a collection of city-states, a lot of small kings, like the way ancient Ireland operated. So you got all these little castles everywhere, and every king is the king in Mao. And so the way the cats interact is different, but even then there's a buy-in. Your team is important to you. And if it's not, make a character whose team is important to them. Because this is not going to be a game, like, there can be internal struggle. That's always fun. This isn't going to be a game about splitting the party up and having a civil war between each other. That's just not what the intention is.
Not what the game is about. Yeah,
there's too much out there in the world that's going to destroy Pugmire, that the dogs really need to get along. and this happened in the history of the world. The Hounds left and tried to create a new state, and it was a rise and fall of them, and they're kind of like the Sparta to Pugmire's Athens, except they fell to the monsters. And the Mutts have gone off and created their own like free dog state, but they're still very reliant on the supplies and trade that they have with Pugmire. So are they free, or are they just in an off-dog leash park?
The Trinity Bellwoods dog bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
Along those lines, there was one class that I deliberately didn't pick when I was doing my character creation because I wasn't sure how to kind of play that class, but also have that buy-in that you were talking about.
Oh, which class was that?
Yeah, it was the Strays. I just wasn't seeing how to make a stray who was kind of buying into the good dog civilization.
Yeah, they're the nomadic wanderers and the stalwart survivors. And actually, the I believe the pre-made character, Pan's a hunter. They actually don't have a pre-made stray, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they specifically went away. The stray very much plays of like the solo player, doesn't it? And it does read like it's the anti-hero of this group.
Mm-hmm. And so I could either see kind of an entire game of strays if that was what everyone wanted to do. But I think it would be really hard to have as both a player and as game master to have one stray like in
You could do a Suicide Squad of strays. They're all criminals in Pugmire's prison, and Juniper comes walking down with their ledger and goes, "You're all gonna get your freedom if you do this one job for the king." Yeah. I'm just reading through because it got like a farmer seeking revenge, a soldier who lost their unit, a dog raised in the wild. I mean, it would be a conversation to have with your GM, and it's on the player to make it work. Because if you do just keep butting against the group, have a conversation about that and consider that this character concept isn't going to work. But they have avoiding the rigid laws of society. Even the most uneducated stray often instinctively embodies the tenet of stay loyal to those that are true. So that's the one of like being a good dog isn't important to a stray. Obeying the master is certainly not important to a stray. But being loyal to the people that are true to you, yeah, absolutely. So you need to appeal to that. And so maybe that would be what Salsa would have to do. Maybe our job is to go out into the wilderness and bring back a stray, and we would need to invite them into our party and figure out, the fact that you've just admitted to me that the stray was the one class you didn't like. As a GM, I'm like, well, then there's our opening quest, because we're going to learn how a stray can work in a party, and we're going to challenge that and make it work, because that's now the job that Juniper has given you. And she's given it to you specifically because she knows that Sister Salsa has some prejudiced opinions against strays. There we go.
Speaking of
the back road.
Yeah.
And then this setting that Eddy Webb has made is I love. And I've mentioned the Monarchies of Mao. I mentioned the Pirates of Pugmire. There's also like a card stacking game or a deck building game that they've made for children, aimed at children, called Fetch Quest. And so it's all these puns and stories, and they all keep building on the lore. And then, as you can tell, even the three of us, you want to get involved in this universe, and you start creating your own fiction of how does this work. Like for me, I really want to find a way to make ferrets work in the world of Pugmire, because there are badgers, but there aren't ferrets, not really, in this world yet. And that's when I came across, right as we were preparing and researching for this episode, the Canis Minor project, which is a publishing arm that Eddy Webb launched that allows players of Pugmire to write their own modules and publish them and submit them to Canis Minor and get a link to a PayPal account and get royalties based on the sales of that book. And they're all listed on our Drive-Thru RPG, and you can and they're all fan created content that all follow, like there are assets that you have to download and install and use, like these logos and these images that are provided, so that it all fits into their world. But then the actual content that you write is yours, and you get paid for it. If you want to set up price, you can also do pay what you want or available for free. And there's a lot of free modules available as well. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have to just make a homebrew ferret module if I wanted to. I could write about them and put it through this if I wanted to. And so I've been working this out a lot. We're a little over time, so I don't want to get into it today. But I keep thinking, like, how would the ferrets work? And I think it was Jo, you told me that a ferretory is a thing that carries relics.
Yep, because I'm typoed into Google, and that's what popped up.
Yeah, and so a ferretory, and so I was like, okay, so what if these ferrets, because ferrets were bred to like hunt small animals and to pull them backwards out of tunnels and stash them for the hunters to bring them back. And so today, like domestic pets, ferrets, still stash things a lot. They stash them under specific places under the couch, and they sleep all day and they sleep all night, and they're only active during sunrise and sunset. So what if these ferrets have embedded themselves into the bandit groups that the badgers are a part of, but they're actually monks of a secret monastery deep out in the wilderness, who they also worship man the same way dogs and cats kind of do, but they have a very different idea of, like, their job is to actually take all of man's relics and keep them in a vault safe until they come back. So they have this ferretory, this giant bank, and this underground labyrinth of which they're also very idiotic creatures. So they have no organizational structure of where anything went, and the ferrets themselves keep moving things around inside the labyrinth from each other because they all have a better idea of where this thing should be stashed. And so it gets lost underground, and so they just take everything in, like Brainiac, into the center point and just cataloging, stashing. So they're the ferrets of the mustache. And they are a group of zealot warrior monks that operate out of a secret monastery out in the wilderness, who steal from both the cats and dogs of the relics of mankind, because it is their calling to stash until man comes back for their things. And they see the dogs and the cats as thieves. You are stealing holy items that are not yours to have, and they're not ours either, but we'll protect it because we've got a big hole to put them in. So it's a bit like Untitled Goose Game. It's a bit like a little bit of that. So I had this idea of doing this like ferret stash. You could play as the ferrets, or you could play as the Pugmire or Mao cat or dogs, who have their things stolen from them and have to go to this monastery and navigate through the maze to get their things back. And so, yeah.
And I mean, I think even a dog like Salsa or Juniper would be too big.
Maybe. Yeah, to go through those tunnels.
Yeah, so maybe you need like a tiny little terrier to
remember,
kinda...
like the mines.
Yeah.
I don't like bringing up Harry Potter imagery, but at the same time, I keep thinking of like the Gringotts vault in the movies, the giant like vaulted banks and mine carts. That's what I imagine when I think of like the ferrets, a labyrinth underground. Like it's this huge cave system that they've mined out. Maybe it was an ancient human mine, and they've and so there might even be some like mechanisms happening as well that are a little out of their control. And maybe one of the ancient relics they've stolen has combined with another one, and they actually might have activated Brainiac. Now everyone's got to get in and stop this thing from destroying the known world. I don't know. It sounds like fun. It sounds a little bit like Warehouse 13 or the TV shows like that, where you have like a monster of the week. You could easily do in that. You could do like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but dumb ferrets. Because the other thing with a ferret is they can't jump anything, so they must always fail a jump roll. But they must always think that they can succeed the jump roll every time. They all think that they only get natural 20s, and they always only get natural 1s. And that's the mindset of a ferret that can jump. You want to have a good time? Just look up on YouTube ferrets attempting to jump things. And they're fine. Like they fall like drunk idiots. So they roll and flop around. They don't get hurt. But they all like want to jump from like the couch to the coffee table. And it's maybe half a foot of a jump. And they can't make it. They just fall down between the middle.
Even though they themselves are like longer than half a foot.
Even though they're longer than that and are descended from polecats who would jump trees. Yes. Yes. So that's where I keep thinking about Pugmire and the universe of Pugmire. But what are your thoughts when you go away? So we made our characters, and I like to ask at the very end to each of you, is this a character you would want to keep playing? A character that you would see yourself thinking about afterwards today? Is this a system that we've gone through this process? You had a look at the book. How do you feel about it? We're not going to play the game. Does that make you feel sad? Kieran?
Yeah, I think so. I would 100% want to play this game. Am I going to think about the character afterwards? No, probably not, but that's just because I'm forgetful, not because I don't like it. But I would definitely want to play like a story in this game, if not like a campaign, because I think the setting is really cool. And yeah, I really enjoyed like the creation like process, and the system seems very fun.
What about you, Jo? Is this a character like you actually have a dog in your house running around? So I felt like there was also like there was going to be more of a personal connection to this game than me, a mere ferret owner. How do you feel about Sister Salsa? Would you want to keep playing her? Was this a system that you think you might even enjoy? Because it is also very much like a D&D clone to a degree. So that also comes in with like, it's not going to be like the Spire or Underhill Bywater or Power by Apocalypse games. It's going to be rolling D20s. You got your stats. It plays more traditional.
I mean, I think there's definitely a place for both kinds of games, and I definitely enjoy both kinds of games. And I particularly am enjoying the theme of this particular game for all of the reasons that you mentioned. And the other thing is, I think, especially after talking with you about your character and Kieran about his character, I want to see this group dynamic. Like, I want to see how we all kind of navigate this world together, because I think that would be really fun. One of the things I did not expect as a dog owner before I got into doing so was dog park politics. Having to navigate the fact that some dogs just don't like each other.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just going to and in this world now it comes off as is like racial prejudice almost with different families, like never trust a corgi. And it's like, but the corgis are like a noble family of merchants and traders, and like so it comes off as a lot more problematic than just, this dog just doesn't like certain dogs in the dog park. That's not an excuse in Pugmire anymore. Like, no, we have to be better than that. We're uplifted now.
Although sometimes it is just, no, you got in my face and I don't like that. Goodbye.
Yeah. I want my personal space. I need to, maybe the bustling urban Pugmire setting is like one of the reasons why you become an adventurer is just to get out of all of these other dogs always around you, just to be out in the open field running on all fours.
How can it get any better than that?
Yeah.
But no, I did actually, I've played a lot of 5th edition and I really like it. And so, of D&D. And so I liked that the system felt familiar, but also it also didn't feel exactly like a D&D clone either.
Yeah, it's not just like a 5th edition game. It is its own system.
Exactly.
And it's definitely picking and choosing the bits that the creator enjoys from a couple of systems. And it does seem easy.
Right.
Which it really, this is a game that is luring in dog lovers, not necessarily gamers. So it needs to be accessible.
And I was successfully lured in for sure. So no, I would enjoy playing this character. But I think moreover, I would enjoy playing with this particular group of characters.
Yeah. It's interesting making all these 3 characters independently from each other, and that when we're making like, Oh yeah, the lovable, strong himbo, the earnest seeker of knowledge, but maybe a little bit naive of the ground level ways of the way the world works, and then this like wannabe revolutionary, but really just like orphan Tiny Tim with a sword, running around. Yeah, it's definitely got a lot for like group dynamics and potential conflict, which I always enjoy. Like, we not all have the same ideals about the world. We are going to have a differing of opinion, but also we're all going to get together and we're all going to work together because Ishmo is telling you that we're part of a team now.
And also, we're all good dogs.
I say we're all good dogs.
Yeah, we're all good dogs. And you're going to help me. In fact, I've already signed you up. I already put your names down. I forged your signatures. I learned it all last night. Put it all on the paperwork. So meet me at the dock. We're sailing tomorrow. You're like, what? So that's our session 0 of Pugmire. I think we will look back. Because the game was played on the podcast, but I never got to play it. So I think one day we might come back to examine the world of Pugmire. But if you haven't had a chance, or you didn't know what this was before I mentioned it here on session 0, go back and listen to that old game. They killed my old cat on it. His cat was the evil necromancer of that session, and but it was a good fun time. And the actual world is still being developed. Like the 3 books are out, and there's so many other modules and availabilities and stuff in the community. And it is one of those places where, when you tell you can make your own dog in this game, people are going to start making content in that game, and it's really nice to see them find a legitimate way to make it so that you weren't just ripping off someone else's intellectual property, but actually invited to participate in helping to grow that and really make it a community effort. And it's perfect that we've got dog barking in the background. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me. Jo, I know you're just here hanging out on the podcast, and so I want to thank you for your time. But I know, Kieran, you've got so many other things you're doing. So here's a moment where you can plug whatever it is you want to plug into our hearts.
Okay. So you can go and listen to my Dungeons and Dragons podcast for Crits and Giggles, which is edited by Justin. Your show is the reason why our Spire campaign sounded the way it was. It taught me so much about how to layer sounds. So, yeah. It is. I like to generously say it's on hiatus at the moment. We are hoping to record very soon and actually start releasing episodes again. But working through 3 time zones is very difficult. Have you considered asymmetrical play? So recent development actually. We played a one shot yesterday for the first time in months, and Sam said to us, "What's the weather like where you guys are?" And we're both like, "Oh, it's pretty overcast. It's 18 degrees today." And he goes, "Yeah, same here." And I was like, and he goes, "Yeah, same here," because I'm in New Zealand now. And I was like, "Yeah, that's funny. I wouldn't be surprised." And he's like, "No, I am. I'm on day 5 of my quarantine before I can come out and mingle with the rest of the public." Not really relevant to anything, but he's back in New Zealand now. He's left Qatar and he doesn't live there, doesn't work there anymore, which I'm very excited about because I have not seen him in 2 years. That's awesome. Getting the band back together. Yeah. You can also go and check out my comic book review podcast, which is part of the Geekly Inc. network of podcasts. That is Inks and Issues, which is at Inks and Issues on Twitter. And I do that with my friend Jonah, which, funnily enough, Justin also edits that podcast. I just glom on like a Katamari. That's really all that I'm doing at the moment that is consumable. I was just immediately looking up on my shelf of which comic do I have that you haven't done yet. We can read together. Go listen to this, please. And of course, here on Terrible Warriors, you can follow us on Twitter at Dice Warriors. You can follow our Patreon at patreon.com/Terrible Warriors.
where you can participate in a private game. Do you want to play Pugmire? Let me know. I'll run a Pugmire game. Sure. On our Patreon group. It's a terribly important group, the Tip Club. And we're hoping to get our actual play act together this summer and start recording games again. And I'm trying to get that together. So any support you can throw our way is really going to help make that a reality. As well as we've got a Discord channel where we hang out pretty much every day. We don't talk a lot about tabletop games, which is really ironic. We talk a lot more about video games and movies and stuff. And hey, come hang out with us. It'll be a lot of fun time. And as for me, I'm on Twitter as Mr. Ecock, but follow Dice Warriors because I never tweet anything on either account. So one day I'll learn how social media operates. Until next time, we'll be back. I'm thinking it might be another Session Zero. Our friend Sean Horbachuck and I are looking through the Coriolis game from Free League. So we want to do that soon. And maybe it'll be another Meet the Makers or Behind the Screens. I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll roll the dice. I need a D3. I've only got 3 options. D3. I don't think that's geometrically possible. We'll find out next time. Until then, thank you for joining us. Thank you for playing these games. Thank you for making your games accessible. And until that time when we're all back together, rolling dice and breathing the same air, be good to each other. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.